Prepare to be astonished.
You know what that means. That signifies the return of the one and only Marty Wombacher of the wildly popular blog, Meanwhile, back at Peoria.com. He joins us every Sunday night with the Marty Monologues. Oh, you're quite welcome, hon. And you never know what you're going to get with Marty Wombacher from week to week. He's always got great stories and crazy antics to share with us. So we're going to dial him up and get Marty on the horn and see what he's got for us this week. As we come to you live from the holiday charity concert down here at the Apollo Theater. Seriously, Vic, I'm ready to I'm like squatting down loud and like ready to fall over. Just.
Hello?
Marty, it's Perm and Vic Nasty. What's up, man?
Hey, are we on the air?
We are. We're broadcasting live from the Apollo Theater downtown at the holiday charity concert, man. Where you at?
Yeah, I just got here at home. I've been listening to like your last 10 minutes, but on air at least when I'm listening, it's like it's kind of repeating itself.
Oh, you might have been listening when I was dialing in, and we had we had some problems, but it sounds like we got it figured out now.
Okay, good. How's it going for you guys down there?
Oh, it's going quite well, man. Things got kicked off at 3 o'clock. I managed to get down here at about 5, and been tons of people in and out, silent auction, bake sale. It's been a blast, man. And we've made it to 9:30, and it's the Marty Monologues with Marty Wombacher.
Have you ever been to the Apollo Theater before?
This is my second time here. I came here back on October 4th to see a show, and so I've only been here twice, man. It's an amazing building.
It is. I did a blog post from there probably over a year ago, and a woman gave me a tour through the whole place. It's on my blog. But no, it's really cool. I wish they would do more stuff. I wish I could have come tonight, but I had to go do my pizza thing with a friend of mine. And I just got home literally like 10, 15 minutes ago, and I've been listening to you guys on air. It's been a little up and down for you, hasn't it?
Oh, man. Well, let me tell you. With my cell phone screen is cracked, so I can't dial out. So I was unable to dial into the studio. So my buddy from Michigan, he jumps on the studio and dialed me up when we got the show going. And, well, he disconnected, and that means I lost my host. So I couldn't run the studio, so I'm scrambling. I'm like, oh, shit. And then all of a sudden I'm getting feedback. And it's the first time we've done a live remote, and so I had a few bugs to work out. But we're back on track.
It's been fun to listen to. Like I say, I've only heard like the last 15 minutes.
Oh, we've had a ball so far tonight,
man. On the road.
On the road with Marty. We're going to be on the road with Marty in January.
Yeah, oh, man, I'm glad you said that. I got to call my friend Brad and set that all up.
Here's your friendly reminder.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I've got to remember that. Well, speaking of on the road, you want to hear my Craig Moore Yardbird story?
Hell yeah, absolutely, man.
Well, this was, I think, in 1992. I didn't know Craig that well back then. I mean, he had written for my magazine, but I was just hanging out in his store, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to Memphis to record an EP with Jim McCarty, the drummer of the Yardbirds, and a couple other guys, Rockin' Billy Wynn and some other people. And I said, oh, really? He said, yeah, we're going to record it at Sun Studios. You can rent it out. I said, wow. I said, I'd like to go to that. Could I come along and, like, do a story and take some photos? So, of course, Craig's like, well, yeah, you want to pay for your own hotel room and that? And I said, sure. So it was all kind of set up that I'd go along, too. And I asked a friend of mine, Jeff Jones, who's going to take photos. It was for my old magazine, People of Peoria. And at the last minute, Craig calls me. He said, I can't take McCarty now because of something. I don't even know why, but he's like, could you drive him and his son, Simon, to Memphis with you? And now I was a big Yardbirds fan. I don't know about you guys. I'm older than you guys, but the Yardbirds to me were on the equivalent of like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. And McCarty was,
I can totally understand that, absolutely.
Well, yeah, and he was the drummer. I mean, this guy has played with Jeff Beck. Eric Clapton was their first guitarist in the Yardbirds. Then he quit, and Jeff Beck took his place. And then at one point they wanted two guitarists, so it was Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page. And then Jeff Beck quit. And then it was Jimmy. So McCarty has played with Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and Jimmy Page in different variations of the Yardbirds. But I said to my friend Jeff, I'm like, you know what, we're taking McCarty down there. Let's not bring up the Yardbirds unless he brings it up. Let's not bring up Eric Clapton, nothing. Well, we picked him and his son Simon up, and what it turned out is he loved just to fuck around and kid around on just, I get obsessed on certain things, and it'll be like the joke of the day. It'll be over and over, and these guys were the same way. So we kept doing this goofy kidding around. I mean, at one point, we picked him up in the afternoon, and it's quite a drive to Memphis. So halfway there, we get like a six-pack, and we're drinking near a filling station where we bought the beer, just sitting on the car drinking a few beers, and they went to go to the bathroom. And I said to Jeff, I'm like, did you ever in your life think that you'd be sitting on top of a car between Peoria and Memphis drinking a can of beer with the drummer of the Yardbirds? And he's like, no, that's crazy.
No.
Yeah, and so we drove to Memphis, and then the next day, and like I said, I just got on gangbusters with Jim and his son Simon. So the next day we did the Elvis Presley tour, and we're cracking jokes all through that. And then that night we had to go to Sun Studios and record. Well, Craig, who you should interview on the show, Craig's a real good guy, but he'll admit to this. In the studio, he kind of became like a stern taskmaster, and it was like, you know, we need to do this over again and this. And McCarty kind of had enough. He's like, you know what, Craig? We're here in Memphis. I want to go to Beale Street with me, Marty, and Simon, and Jeff. He's like, I'm laying down my drum parts, and that's that for me. I'm done. And Craig's like, well, okay. Yeah, so he did his shit. We packed everything up and went to Beale Street. And before that, one thing we kept joking about in the studio was a poster in the engineer booth. It said, Don McMinn goes for the jugular. It was some local musician named Don McMinn. And Simon, Jim's son, picked up on it. And he said something to me about Don McMinn. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He pointed to the poster. So from there on in, everything became a Don McMinn joke. Craig did some take in the studio, and he came into the booth, and Simon said to him, wow, that had a real Don McMinn feel to it. And Craig didn't know what was going on. He just went along with it. He's like, thanks. And so it's Don McMinn this, Don McMinn that. And now we're done with the recording. Those guys, Craig and his friends, are still in the studio. But we drive to Beale Street, and we're walking down. And B.B. King is this was the only B.B. King club in the country, was on Beale Street in Memphis. And I'm like, oh, there's B.B. King's club. We ought to go there. Well, we go there, and it was closed because it was B.B. King's birthday. And we're like, oh, fuck, it's closed. And McCarty said, McCarty's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he knows B.B. King. He said, let me go talk to the guy. Let me talk to the guy at the door. You guys hang back here. Well, he goes up there. He flashes his gold. When you're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you get a gold card. We see him flashing that and talking, and pretty soon he's waving us over. He's like, yeah, this is Marty. He plays bass. That's Simon. He's the drummer. He told him that we were his backup band. So we get into B.B. King's private, I think it was his 60th birthday party. And we're in there, and and like I met B.B. King. McCarty introduced me to him and other people. And like I say, we had this Don McMinn thing going on. And at one point, Simon, Jim's son, and I were just up at the bar drinking a beer, and he walks by but Eddie Murphy. And so I yelled out to him, and I said, hey. And he looked at us. I said, aren't you Don McMinn? He looked at me really pissed. He looked at me really pissed. He's like, hey, fuck you, man. And then he just kept going. And Simon and I like doubled over laughing, and then Jim came over, and we told him about it. It was just really a fun night. But then on the way back to the car, we're gonna drive back to the hotel. We're walking along, and it was me, Jim, Simon, and Jeff, and we all at once stopped because there was a club, and with a sign on the marquee that said, appearing nightly, Don McMinn. We all just like doubled over laughing. It was the craziest night. And then, like I said, this is like 1991 or something. So now all these years go by. I moved to New York. I'm there and whatever. Kind of lose contact with Craig. Well, now I moved back. And about a year ago, Craig calls me. He said, hey, McCarty's in town, and we're doing a show at my store if you want to come and do a blog on it. And I said, yeah, I'd love to. I said, well, I'd love to see Jim. And I went with a couple of my friends. I'm like, he'll never remember who I was. All these years have gone by, and he still tours with the Yard, but they played here.
Yeah, they played out the Limelight. My boy's Brainchild opened up for him.
Exactly, yeah, I was at that show. I did a blog on it. Well, this was like a year before that. And I said, I'm sure he'll never remember me. Well, anyway, I go to this show. Basically what the show was, it was McCarty doing a lot of his solo stuff for one part of the show. And then the second part of the show, he played acoustic guitar in the beginning and sang his own songs. Then the second part, he did all Yardbird songs, and he just drummed like he used to do. And Craig played bass and sang lead on the Yardbird songs. Well, when I'm taking pictures, McCarty was up at the stage in Craig's shop, which if you've been in there, it's not that big. And he kind of kept looking at me. And I just assumed he would never remember me from Adam. Because, like I say, you imagine all the people this guy meets.
Oh,
and,
for sure.
Yeah, and I didn't even want to, like, put him on the spot to say, remember me? I just thought, go there, and maybe at the end I'll say, reintroduce myself. Well, then he kept kind of looking at me, and then they were doing the Yardbird songs, and Craig at one point said, in 1992, I went to Memphis with Jim and Rockin' Billy and this guy, and he said, well, he pointed to me, he's like, this asshole that just moved back into town, Marty Wombacher, he came along too. And McCarty stood up from behind his drum kit, and he was like, Marty. He said, I kept looking at you. He said, we got to talk after this. I said, no, I'd love to. And it really made me feel good. After the show, he had like a little meet and greet thing, but they let me go over early. And I went in there, and the first thing he said to me was, Don McMinn, he goes for the jugular. It's just like, I can't believe you remember. And he said, no, that was one of the best weekends I've ever had. How you doing? And we went right back into kidding around. And then when he came back like a year ago for that show at the Limelight, like I said, where Brainchild opened up, and we met up again, and we're joking around. For a guy of his stature, he's such a nice guy. I mean, it's almost like hanging out with Ringo Starr. And he's just so nice, and it was just such a fun time. That's my Jim McCarty story.
Hell yes, dude. Classic from Marty Wombacher. Oh, listen, Marty. For myself and Vic Nasty, we're running short on time tonight, man. Brainchild's about to take the stage here. And I'm going to wrap the show up and get my happy ass in there. But,
okay.
Vic Nasty, I want to throw it over to you. Do you got any parting words for Marty?
Marty, that was an awesome story of everything I've heard you tell, everything I read. That's one of the greatest stories ever, Marty. And it's always awesome having you on.
Yeah, it's good talking with you guys.
Right on. Well, Marty, I want to remind our listeners, check out your blog. It's meanwhilebackinpeoria.com.
Thanks. And this week, I apologize. I forgot to do it. I'm going to put a plug sometime this week for your website because that thing looks great.
Hey, well, thank you, man, and we totally appreciate that. Can't say thank you enough.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
No problem.
All right, Marty. Well, I got shit going on all over the place here. Jesus
okay.
Christ.
All right. I'll let you go. Thanks for calling in. Good talking with you as always.
Be good, Marty.
Absolutely,
right.
Marty.
We'll talk to you guys in a little bit.
Later.